keep the passion. It is, it comes to, I know people say it all the time, it's that self love and self care. And being able to establish those boundaries, knowing that you are operating within a certain capacity. Like you mentioned, we could go on, 10 hours a day will look like 20 hours being worked during the day. And, sometimes some people don't even sleep, until the next day. They're up for 24 hours doing things. But, when you don't realize that burnout is just building up, and then it really does, it shows up as anxiety, as stress, or even the physical manifestations in your body when you're not feeling well. A lot of that has a big part in each other. So being able to operate in your capacity is the number one tip. You have to know that you can't flow with the empty glass.
Hello, lovely community. Welcome to Speak Up, Light Up. Here you find transformational stories. We're also speaking up the truth about the path to success and lighting up with some tools and strategies for self-discovery and creating reality you love. I'm your host, Valerie Frasetto. Through this week, I was in a rush trying to complete so many tasks and accomplish specific things until I was just starting to feel like a little bit overwhelmed. And actually, this Friday, I thought maybe I need to slow down a bit. Maybe I have to make it, on its natural flow through the day. But before the guilt hit me up, I had this realization. The whole culture's society promotes this constant rush to achieve more, be more, do more. And then you don't even notice how your life is already, past in a way. So I call this kind of type, let's say it's a New Yorker. When you have this vibrant city, this amazing kind of lifestyle. And to be honest, I'm this kind of person who loves to be part of this energy. From the other side, we see that there are some people who realize, okay, maybe I need to slow down. And they are promoting kind of minimalism, not only in terms of how many things you have, but also the whole lifestyle, how you live, this consciousness, this awareness. I call them kind of islander, when you're like in a beautiful island, maybe Bali, like if something doesn't work, you go meditate, manifest things. Until I just realized that it's also an element of duality, like to be a New Yorker or to be an islander. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm a New Yorker somewhere deep inside, but I also want to live the experience, this calmness inside. And then I realized one important thing is that you can actually regulate not only the quality of your life, but also the speed. You can find yourself somewhere in between. And to, dive deeper into this topic, I invited an amazing guest who is tuning in to discuss the topic of holistic entrepreneurship. Sacha is an international speaker who provides a fresh take on entrepreneurship through a holistic approach to business. This multi-dimensional woman of inspirational award winner is also a business strategist, podcast host, author, and event producer, passionate about mental wellness and entrepreneurship. Just by saying all these things, I feel like you're also a New Yorker somewhere deep inside.
I might be like, I live in Virginia. I'm on the East Coast of the States. But I do carry that New York mentality or flow because just like you just opened up, like I do all of those things. You have to, yeah, keep that flow always going, constant moving. And so,
Yeah. So, I'm coming from this culture, like I'm Korean, and the culture of Korean, it is even calls like pali pali culture, meaning quick, quick. So everything is fast, decision making, implementation, technology advancement, but also daily life, like eating fast, being here, being there. And at some point can be an exhauster if you come there to visit your family and you don't notice it when you are like part of this. And this is fine until you realize that when you withdraw yourself from this culture, you finally can hear yourself more, understand yourself more. But I'm just like curious, what was your journey? Why holistic entrepreneurship? And because we put like our own meaning to every single word and phrase, what holistic entrepreneurship means to you?
So holistic entrepreneurship means to me is really governing your business from within. You know, the biggest part of everything that we do is ourselves. I always say, like, there's this 80-20 rule everyone always talks about. So, my 80-20 rule is you're 80% mindset and 20% strategic planning action. And if you're not right within yourself, you know, your thoughts and your mental health and how you process things, you know,
Yeah.
it really impacts how you show up in life. And
Mm,
so, and it can actually impact how you show up in your business. So when people, you know, look at entrepreneurship in the holistic approach, it's really just being right within yourself first. So
mm,
that way you could be right within everything else.
yes. So, how did you come to this holistic entrepreneurship way of living, creating?
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey. I mean, you know, I've been in business for over 20 years. I started out with my company doing event production and, you know, that fast-paced world, you know, just growing and scaling my business and, you know, very successful. And it was actually the pandemic that shifted me into this mindset thinking. For 2 years, my business was shut down because of the pandemic.
Mm,
It,
yeah.
it really impacted the live events and the event industry. And so I was left in this place of what do I do next? You know, going through my own mental journey when it comes down to it and really processing myself and the thoughts. I really was in a spiral. And so it came to a point I was like, okay, Sasha, get it together. You know, I you know, pulled on that resilience and perseverance. And, you know, I finally relaunched my business in December 2021. I knew I had to do it differently. The biggest thing was for me to get out of my comfort zone as well.
Mm,
And I went ahead, I did that, launched a personal brand, and I started showing up. And I look back and I said, okay, you know what? There are some values that I did gain through that experience. And that experience was really in the mind. And because I was more reactive during that time than
mm,
proactive. And so, you know, it's like, okay, making decisions and it really wasn't making any impact during those years. And so when I really just pulled myself together, I knew that, okay, the value is here. And I know so many people go through it. A lot of people went through it with the pandemic, you know, businesses shut down, you know, the stress, the anxiety of a lot of things. So, okay, let me get myself together and be vulnerable and transparent in this space and talk about it because it's a real thing. And so that's what I started doing with my journey. And that's how I got here. And it's just like with that holistic approach of things, you know, if we operate in fear and procrastination and limited beliefs and limited thoughts, it's going to impact you. And it did in my case because I just laid around, you know, I just said, okay, I'm gonna be a regular person. You know, I'm
mm,
not gonna just go out here and do these great things anymore because if I do, what if I fail? You know, I didn't fail on my own, but what if something happened that caused me to fail again? So it was my own thought process that kept me bound in a sense during those 2 years from just, you know, being that movement shaker that I've always been. So I said, you know what? Everyone else has this narrative. Let me come out here with this fresh narrative because it does make a difference. And that's why holistic entrepreneurship and being right within yourself and speaking that first and then applying the strategies, the business principles to your business and being able to show up as a complete person in a complete business because your business is you.
mm. Yeah, beautiful. You know, the more stories I hear, I feel like there was life before pandemic, after pandemic, and you see how many entrepreneurs actually evolved from this crisis. They reinvented themselves, they reinvented the whole business model. And do you think, I know it's weird, I know it's crazy, but in a way, for some people, it became a blessing because we always grew through this crisis thing. You know, you're coming, as you mentioned, from the event, like you have a like event industry, event production industry, and actually one of my first jobs was also working as a planner, wedding manager. And
Yeah.
I remember you work like sometimes 7 days a week, You go to bed at 3 a.m. and the very next day you again should produce, do something. I didn't work there too long time, but it was crazy. It's just no matter what, it's like really crazy. And I know there are a lot of people who are maybe like thinking, okay, time for entrepreneurship. But in a way, like I know that you also wrote the book, The Ugly Truth About Entrepreneurship. And one of the ugly
Yeah.
truths is that instead of working eight, okay, let's say 10 hours per day, you work sometimes 20.
Yeah. It
So any kind of tips or strategies, maybe what helped you to navigate this? Like that you still passionate about what you do, that you still have enough resources to create, and you still manage the business. Because
is.
a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, start to fail when they lose this passion to what they do. And not because they are not more interested anymore, just because they're exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I was at in those 2 years. I lost all my passion. But now I have it all back in the newest way. And being able to create that work life balance is everything, and being able to integrate yourself into what you're doing. So what I've done, I created an ecosystem. So I do still have my business, my business, event management and strategic planning, but with my personal brand, me being the speaker and everything, I've been able to really, go ahead of it and balance it out that way. Now, because of the event industry is just really, taking off again. So, that kind of helped me to kind of balance that thing out. And so, while I'm still gaining contracts and still, building that side of the business up, let me still go ahead and operate in that pivot and shift of what I did as far as the podcast host, the author, and the speaker.
Mhm.
And but a lot of the ugly truths that you mentioned, the ugly truth about entrepreneurship is that it is those things. It's the burnout, it's the loss of passion that we deal with. It is the lack of self that we deal with, and when we're going so fast all the time. And until we slow down, we really understand that that is a problem because we're not effective. And so when I found myself in that space, that's how I started to gain those principles and those tips. So being able to function within your business and keep the passion, it is it comes to, I know people say it all the time, it's that self-love and self-care. And being able to establish those boundaries, knowing that you are operating within a certain capacity. Like you mentioned, we could go on, 10 hours a day will look like 20 hours being worked during the day. And, sometimes some people don't even sleep, until the next day. They're up for 24 hours doing things. But, when you don't realize that burnout is just building up, and then it really does, it shows up as anxiety, as stress, or even the physical manifestations in your body when you're not feeling well. A lot of that has a big part in each other. So being able to operate in your capacity is the number one tip. You have to know that you can't flow with the empty glass. If you're not being filled back in with the things that you need to do to pour, that self-love and self-care back into yourself, then you continue to just move. It's just like an empty case just moving, like you're a zombie. You're just gonna be a zombie in entrepreneurship, walking around with no life in you, trying to do work, and then you're not showing up completely for people. Then you start missing things. You don't need that. But when you know that you operate within your capacity, that is the number one tip that I can really give anybody. Just start to be self-aware of where you are within yourself and within your business. Be able to pull away, be honest about it, and be transparent with your own self to pull away and to regain focus, regain control, to regroup, to recharge. And then my other tip would be is just take care of yourself.
Mhm.
The biggest part in mindfulness is taking care of. We know to take care of our bodies. We go to the gym, we do all these things, which is helpful, in self care and mindfulness. But we also have to take care of our mental state, because all of that um, multitasking, doing more than one thing, it's all playing on your mind. It's playing on your brain strength. And when we're not focused on that, really our bodies will start shutting down because our mind is shutting down first.
Mm. Yeah, well, I can't agree more because, like, I'm also a psychologist. I love personal development space, And I know that everything starts from this, as you mentioned, self love and self care. The
Mhm.
interesting part of this is that deep in our subconscious mind, we have kind of necessities or needs that were not close at some point, maybe in childhood or in some point in life. And this, like, kind of things that are manipulating, you know. So sometimes people have addictions or cravings, or like why we are in a constant rush. Sometimes it's just a like protective mechanism to not
Mhm.
be with yourself, because when I will be with myself in the present moment, I probably would not be happy.
Mhm.
And when you don't listen to this, you don't go through this process. Okay, now I'm not happy with myself, but what can I do with this? And the interesting thing is that when you actually decide to stay in this kind of pain for a
Mhm.
while, you can notice that it's gone at some point.
Yeah.
And then you start hearing why I'm actually experiencing this and what kind of needs are not closed. And then when you
Mhm.
become, instead of being this child, like, you know, who are like in a way abused or something, or hurt, something happened to this child, you become an adult who says, you know, yes, I was a child, didn't have enough resources, but now I'm an adult and I can take care about my personal needs. And that's when also this self-care comes. So, you know,
Mhm.
a lot of people, they are not really taking care about themselves, like, it's not their part maybe of their routine or habit. Maybe you give some examples, like your personal, you know, how you are taking care about yourself, to give some, you know, hints, inspire people.
Mhm. Most definitely. So what I do in my world, everybody, and I would love for you to take this. And it's simple. I mean, it's the simplest things, but you just have to make it matter and prioritize it for yourself as especially as entrepreneurs. So one of the things that I love to do is, if you have a beach nearby, if you live in that area, whether seasonal, or if you're fortunate to be somewhere where it's warm all the time, you can go to the beach. Take time. It's just nature. If it's the park, if it's the beach, anything that you could do that takes you away. It takes you away from all of the noise, and you're able to still yourself. But you have to be disciplined enough to prioritize this. And that's one of the things that I do. I will go to the beach. I will sit there by the water, and just listening to everything. And I'm just like, I'm leaving everything behind. I might take my notebook. I might take my phone. I'll go out there and I'll journal. It'll help me to be clear about the next move I'm going to make in my business. But mostly, it's just being quiet and being still and enjoying the peacefulness. It's the kids running around laughing, all those good things. And then, or the gym. If we have people that love to work out, look at it as an opportunity to zone out. I just say, look, anywhere I could go, I'm going to zone out from my busy world, and I'm going to prioritize that hour to just gain that focus and just be about me. Just kind of, it's the bring yourself into yourself, if I could say
Yeah.
that, and really flowing from there, because you come out feeling good. Not only that, but it releases those endorphins, make you happy, and you go back and you just like energized. And then if people like a glass of wine, a good meal, something that's going to make you stop
Mm.
and breathe and just take in the moment. For me, it's chocolate chip cookies. You know, it's chocolate chip cookies, it's pancakes, it's that good dinner or burger, whatever it is. Look
Yeah.
at that as a way of escape. It is something that's going to take your mind and settle it just for a little while. And like, it's just very practical. But you have to start to look at yourself first. It's putting yourself first. It's not, people say, oh, it's okay to be selfish. We always look at that thing as selfish as if you're selfish, you're negative. It's a negative thing. And it can be, but it's not. You want to look at selfishness in a good way. When you have that balance to say, look, I have to really consider myself first, and then other people, you know, in a balanced way where you're still giving, you're humble about it and you're still giving of yourself, but you know that you're giving with a full glass, and you're being self full when you give to people, and instead of selfless. So I would just move the lish off of selfish, or the fish off of selfish, and just say, you want to be self full. when you give to people. So those are some of the tips. Those are some of the things that I do. Those are the things that I learned during that experience. Even though we know these things, but sometimes it takes for you to go through something that is, traumatic in your own viewpoint, And it took for me to get to that point because I was that person, hands on everything, people pleasing, all of those things, and just say, okay, I have to show up. If somebody asks me to do something and that person asked me to do something, I have my own thing, I'm
Yeah.
trying to show up for everybody. And it really wasn't a good place to be in, but I didn't realize it because I'm in it. Just like you said, when you're in that moment, you can't see it around you, how it's, impacting you. But it took for me to be still with myself because of those 2 years of the pandemic, not operating a business, but I knew what my capacity level was. I couldn't show up for anybody else because I had to be there for me. I
Mm.
had to make decisions. What's going to happen in my household? How I'm going to bring in more money. How I'm going to do this. And to do something for somebody else at the time, if I can't show up for myself, how can I show up for you? And so I really had to regain that focus and really, balance my life out. So that is, when I gave that first tip, knowing your capacity, that came out of a real space. But when you're looking at those practical moments, just take it on. Try it for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Especially if you have little kids or something. I knew somebody to go in the closet. They go in their room in their closet, shut the door, and just take their headphones and music and just say, look, I just need 10 minutes. Whatever it is that you put yourself first, so that way you could be more impactful when you come out to people, is where you need to be. So yeah, those are my tips.
Yeah, wow, cool. I mean, this is true. To give from this state of being self-full, I love it. And by the way, who is living like super far away from sea, we have, I don't know, we have rivers, lakes, mountains.
Yes.
No, no, the funny part is we have been living in Dubai for like around like 1 year,
Yeah.
just in front of the beach. Do you know how many times I went like for morning swim? Maybe like
Mhm.
5 times.
Oh, wow.
Because
Cool.
it's like you sometimes you dream, oh, I'm dreaming to live next to the sea. Then your dream comes true. And then you hurry because every day you wake up, you rush, you do your stuff, you build business, you come back, it's night. And it's every single day like that.
Yes.
So I think when you slow down is also part of really feel grateful. It's appreciation, and sometimes because we're in this craving, I want this, but I still don't have it. We're not used to experience this gratitude. But I think
Yes.
again, it comes from this kind of endless rush, and when you find the way how to navigate and have days when you actually spend nice time in nature, connect with yourself, you're not operate from this victim mode,
Mm,
like I don't have enough, but from this creator part.
mhm.
Okay, maybe I want to have more money. How am I going to do this? But in a nice, creative way, my way. So yeah, thank you for sharing
Yes, you're welcome.
your, what fuels you, let's say. So I want to also to ask about this. I'm very interested, curious about the book that you wrote, and maybe you can. I know there are a lot of imperfections, let's say, or ugly parts of entrepreneurship, but maybe
Yeah.
just like a couple of things that was for you um, at the beginning challenging, but how can you were able to overcome? I want to raise this topic not to demotivate people to
Mhm.
to start entrepreneurial journey, but actually vice versa. That when
Mhm.
you are aware, you're prepared, you know what is going on, it's easier to navigate than to have
Yes.
surprise. It's like with the motherhood, I think. We see these beautiful pictures, these great videos, and when we become mothers, we're like, I know what, I have no idea. And this, like, I'm bad mother thing, I'm not enough, depressed, whatever. This is exactly because we are not prepared and we don't have enough education.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly.
how it was
Yeah.
like your roller coaster journey?
Yeah. So my roller coaster journey. it didn't start out with the roller coaster. It was like I went into business, I started doing these things and doing it well. It took until I would say maybe 2018. That I was working full time and had a full time side business. We all know if anybody's in business, it's not always not a small business, it's a full time business, not just a side, it's a full time business. And my first challenge that I thought was going to be a real big challenge was I was working a full time business, um, at a full time company, full time business, and then I was laid off after 20 years of being at that company. So I, you know, had more of a level head at that time, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna move my business out to a full time entrepreneurship, and that's when I went heavily after large contracts and actually scaled my business 6 figures. The first 6 months of the layoff, but the roller coaster ride really happened with the pandemic. I'm going through business 20 years. I'm a mom. I had a young child. I always figured it out. We're going to do this thing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the mom. I'm going to be the business owner. I'm going to be the employee. Whatever it was, I did all of those things. So I could say I was that person, managing life as an octopus. Like I got tentacles all everywhere, just put my hands on everything. And that superwoman mentality, like we as women, if any women out there, we always glorify multitasking, that we could do all these things. And but when it happened for me in this pandemic, that's when that roller coaster really, really hit. And finding myself dealing with all those things. So when I wrote the book, The Ugly Truth About Entrepreneurship, I looked at it from a state of mental health is a real thing and entrepreneurship is a real thing. It's rarely discussed together. When we listen to people talk about mental health, it is always a general statement about your personal life, how to govern yourself, all those things. But as entrepreneurs, we have a little bit more because we're building businesses or we're running businesses full time. We have that stress on us. So it was during those moments, experiencing my own stress, understanding that other people have those real things, and I wrote The Ugly Truth About Your Entrepreneurship. So it's more so the book is about being vulnerable and transparent about those real things. And anybody who's going into entrepreneurship, if you haven't really started yet, just know that it is a lot of, it's a lot of give and take. It is not easy. It is hard. It's joyful. It is all these things wrapped up, but you have to be able to know what you're getting into.
Mm.
And that's why it's so important to make sure you're right within yourself when you get into it, because if not, then you don't have that true balance between within yourself and within your business to really function, and then you have that burnout and all those things. But people go through real stuff. You're still managing a family. You're still managing. Some people are still employees. Some people, it's so many things that you are balancing out in your life that are the ugly truths. It's like, are you bringing enough money into your business to pay your lights, or what? Just really being real about it. And I felt like a lot of people weren't being real. We'll see all the results, especially with social media. Social media just highlights everything. People are, oh, I got my 6 figures, or I do this, or I have my car, I have all these things. But what did it take for you to get there? Let people know about the real part of it, because it's a ugly journey with beautiful results. But it's part of who we are. And so the book encompasses that type of stuff, but it also is my story and just me being vulnerable and transparent about what we can go through. I went through the hardest part of entrepreneurship with
Mm.
the pandemic. There is nothing like having your own. And you go from, especially if anybody have a layoff story, somebody has been laid off before, out there. But if you have that story where you're laid off and then you somehow miraculously survive doing that. You scale your business, all these things, and you're like, oh, I'm not going back to that 9 to 5. I'm not going to do that. And you're just leveling up, but then something happens to knock you down. And that right there is just, when our money is funny, when our money is not right and something is happening, especially we as women, because we're used to having it all together,
Mm.
or at least portraying that we have it all together. And we're good at it. And so that's what happened to me. I got to this place from thriving to surviving. And, it's like, okay, that is my ugly truth. but I'm going to talk about it. And it helps other people to come forward and say, you know what, you're so right, because I had to go through this with my child, or they're dealing with a divorce, or and they're still in business, but how is that impacting their lives? Somebody end up becoming sick and ill, they have to, maneuver things, and they're still trying to manage business.
Mm.
It's real things out here.
Yeah.
And and I just say, you know what, I'm gonna be that voice and advocate for it. I'm not a clinician, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not any of these things. I'm just an entrepreneur that had an
Mm.
experience that I'm willing to talk about and help other people to bring that to the table. And then hopefully that's a source of healing. And even in, like, when you mentioned about some of the things that you experienced in your childhood, some of those things are so repressed that we don't even know it's impacting our adult lives. And
Yeah.
in that moment in time, for me, I also went back and looked. Okay, let's see what's going on in my life. It was just like you get to a place that sometimes some things happen to you, and you go into that retrospective self. It's like, okay, you start thinking about this. Why I do this? Why did I do that? You go 10 years back. Why did I make that decision? Because if I didn't, I wouldn't be right here. It's just like so many things. But when you look at it in a healthy way, what is it doing to rebuild you? And that's what my journey ended up being. And I mentioned earlier about being out of your comfort zone. I operated in fear, and even
Mm.
though I felt like I was courageous in everything that I did, but I still shied away from a lot of things because of fear. Like, I didn't want to speak in front of people, I didn't want to do all these things, I didn't want to be seen. I'm like, let me be great in the shadows. And it took for me to go through that experience to be before everyone right now to discuss these things. So, there's a lot of things that's there, but whatever your ugly truth is, you have to face it. And especially if you want to be successful in what you're doing, especially in business and entrepreneurship. And one of the things that I really love, the fact that I come up with, I always look at it, your business is wrapped up in you. Your business is a reflection of who you are. And if you don't show up healthy within a mental state, if you're not mentally healthy and you're still going fast, 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 it will come out as a physical illness. It could be a headache, it could be any of those things,
Mm.
and you're not showing up fully for your business. So when you understand that you are a reflection, your business is a reflection of you, it is who you are, because you're breathing life into it.
Mm.
It's an entity that you created. So that's, you talked about motherhood. Your business is your baby, and it's sometimes you don't know what you're doing in motherhood. You just learn it as you go. And sometimes you learn as you go with your business too. But you have to be, flat footed and say, look, this is what I'm going to do. Let me make sure I balance my life to take care of myself and my business and those around me. And, that is my ugly truth, and in a good nutshell. But but
Yeah.
it's just, it is. But you have to be open to yourself to be able to say, look,
Mm.
I really did have a problem. And my problem was that superwoman hit syndrome. And come out of that and to say, look, I have to be better for myself. And that's what that time showed me.
Wow. Thank you for sharing this part of your journey and for going out from this, shadow and not being, showing up for all the entrepreneurs whom you can help. Because as
Yes.
you said, indeed, you are like your business is who you truly are. And the more you are in resourcefulness, the more you are who you are, authentic, true, without all this constant masks changing, the more I think the business will be able to evolve because you still sell to people and they feel your energy. And when it's not in congruence, you feel like, why my business is not growing? Because you're showing one part of yourself, but people feel like something is not really true. We have this intuition. If people say, I don't believe in this kind of things, but subconsciously they do the choice. So why do you buy the, I don't know, this cream, but not this cream, because this
Right.
kind of, vibes that is coming from founders or the
Yes.
team, the whole team. Yeah. So thank you for sharing this. At the end, I always ask my guests to put themselves in the state of creator because we are all creators of our own life, the universe. As Sasha creator, how would you like to light up our audience?
Oh, wow. So I love to light up the audience by, just encouraging you guys to be your best selves, be the highest version of yourself in anything that you do. And if it is business and entrepreneurship, you have to show up as the highest version of yourself. So don't scale back in your own lives. Just make sure that you balance it out and that you show up and you show up effectively. Let go of all the fear and procrastination and things, the defeating thoughts that could limit you as well. And plan, plan for your business. Be strategic because that does help out remember I said the 80-20 rule, 80% mindfulness, 20% action.
Mm,
20% action and strategic movement. So be strategize within your business because when you have that balance in your business, then you actually have that balance in your life as well. So
mm,
I just love to just lighten folks up with that and just be encouraging, show up, be strong, and be wise in what you do and
mm.
how you balance yourself. Yeah.
Thank you very much. If you would like to buy this book, learn what is the actual journey of entrepreneurship to empower yourself, we will leave the link in the description box, and also you will find the ways how to connect with Sasha. And sometimes you do need this light. You need somebody who can show you the way how to grow faster. So make sure to check the description box. And thank you very much, Sasha, for being here today with us. And my dears who are watching us, who are listening us, check also our community that is growing, that is all about the people who believe that they are in charge of their reality. They are ready to, self-express themselves and serve this world, serve other people with their talents, with their abilities, with who they truly are. Make sure to join and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I see you in the next episode.